Welcome everybody to another episode of G2 Kappa. Get to know a person already, and today by my side I have Nigel, one of my very, very best friends, who we've been creating content. We've known each other for many years. I'm excited to get into more of a deep dive than just kind of the surface level wrestling content we were creating before. And Nigel, welcome.
Hello, good to see you again. I'm good to be here.
I'm very excited to get into this outfit as well, but we'll wade into that in a sec. If y'all can't tell by his voice, Nigel, of course, from the UK, so there's quite a few things that I think will be fun to talk about. But I'd be remiss if we didn't jump in where it all started, which is getting into content. So, of course, we met in the wrestling TikTok community, but nowadays you're doing something a little bit different. And I know you also had another channel you were working on previously in TikTok, not a lot of people knew about, that had to do with like mental health. And I
Yes,
know,
that is true.
not everybody knows this is Deep Dive on Nigel. But if you want to talk about kind of some of the content you've created on TikTok, and maybe have you created content on other platforms, just tell me your journey of how you got into doing this stuff.
Well, obviously, from the beginning, me and you, we done the wrestling content, and I also deep dived into mental health because mental health for me was a big thing. Um, I've had bad episodes, and I wanted to share experiences and quotes with other people. So for a while, I did go onto TikTok and make videos to help and inspire people. Unfortunately, the account didn't last too long because I managed to lose the password and everything, and it just sort of stopped. So I decided to go into other avenues, which is reviews. I like reviewing food, drink, stuff from Chinese websites, and I also, as you said, do Christmas. I have an account for Christmas, so that's basically the content I'm doing at this precise moment in time.
Well, so I really love. Okay, well let's segment this out. The wrestling content I really enjoyed. It's something we kind of connected on, but the mental health content you were making, I just found on my FYP one day. You didn't tell me you were doing this. I don't know that you were advertising it to like our friend group or anything. I stumbled across it because little known, it's stuff that I commonly watch on on TikTok. So it definitely hit me a certain type of way, and I would love to maybe make some more of that type of content with you down the line. I'm huge into mental health and personal growth, stuff like that. But is that something you would be interested in getting back into? Is that something you're passionate about?
Yeah, I enjoyed doing it. It's just that things happened, and it's something that I would love to do again to help people because there are times that everyone is suffering with their mental health, me
For sure.
knowing more than anyone. And I didn't tell anybody I had the account. I just made it and put it out. And then, as you said, you found it. And it was good that you found it and you agreed with what I was doing and thought it was a good thing. So I enjoyed making it. It sort of died off and I didn't remake the account again. But it is something I'd like to do to help other people if that can be done. Yeah.
I would love to do that with you. I've from here and there posted, like a clip. I've never had like a set content or like a set channel where it was like focused on that. But I think it'd be really interesting. We have another friend as well that I think might be good for a project like that. Shout out to Sid, who also is on G2 Kappa. Also a member of View Count. Shout out View Count, whole View Count team. But I would be really interested in that. If y'all are interested, or if y'all have ideas for that, let us know in the comments. But now, when you talk Christmas, so I've always known you're a Christmas fiend. Every year when it comes Christmas time, the Facebook, like 3 months out, I feel like I'm already getting the days till Christmas stuff. This is before the current account even existed. I'm talking just personal Facebook. It was already on, right?
Yeah. Christmas for me, I love Christmas. As a kid, absolutely loved it. And then growing up, it sort of died off a bit. But when I had kids, the love sort of came back again. And yes, I start Christmas early, whereas people usually wait till November, beginning of December. Me, I start talking about it in October.
Well, as I
My
say, I
Christmas
feel like
decoration.
there's two groups of people. The people that are like it's not even Halloween yet and it's Christmas time, and then the people that like the week before, they're like, all right.
Yeah, see, that's the difference. Halloween for me, I don't like Halloween. I never get into it. So for me, it's just Christmas. Straight after like September is thinking about Christmas. What am I going to do? And that's the way I am. I absolutely love it, especially the old nostalgic side of Christmas, Christmas in the
All right.
'80s. And
So let me stop you there because I do want to deep dive the Christmas stuff, but I'm going to have you back. And I know people are going to keep saying this. Everybody I've had on so far, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have you back. It's because these are my friends. Okay. I haven't gotten into people yet that I've never talked to before, I've never met. Nigel, of course, someone I'm extremely close to. But we'll get into that closer to Christmas because I want
yeah,
to deep dive into your love of Christmas. But what I do kind of want to touch on is something I found interesting in how you're approaching your content is that nostalgia. I like that you're posting like, you're reminding people of these cartoon commercials and stuff like that from like the 80s, and I think that's really interesting. Are you like a big fan of nostalgia content? Were you watching that type of content? Like,
yes, I love looking back at old content, old advertisements, old programs. See, I'm always on YouTube looking for stuff that I used to watch as a kid or remembered as a kid. Nostalgic programs for me are great, looking back in that time and what we used to watch and how it's changed from now. I love all that sort of stuff. So yeah, constantly nostalgic old time programs from the '80s, even if I can get them on DVD. I know most people don't use DVDs now, but yeah, DVD, I get them and rewatch.
so what were some of your like? I know this is a weird question, but I'm just interested personally. So maybe somebody would be interested. What were some of like your favorite toys that you remember the advertisement for when you were a kid? Like what got
Um,
Nigel hyped?
there was a board game when I was younger. It was called Mr. Pop. I don't know if you've had it in America.
I
Basically,
don't know.
you've got this face, you set it back, you set the timer, you turn the card over, and you have to put the pieces on before the face pops. They were the sort of games that I used to play when I was a kid. And there was other ones like Buckaroo, where you had a horse and you bent it back, set the timer, and you had to pile all the stuff on the horse, and the person who got it to kick loses. See, stuff like that to me, love it.
A
Love
lot
them old style board games.
lot of timer based bend it back games. It's
Yes,
you're like if there's a
like,
timer and an element of something popping off,
I'm there.
dial it in. So also because we talked about commercials and stuff like that, like what kind of shows were you watching when you were a kid? Like what were you into?
'80s was mostly cartoons for me because I was a youngster in the '80s. It was like, see, I'm an old man. Transformers, Thundercats, Jason the Wheel Warriors, stuff like that. Nostalgic cartoons, big part of my life. It's like before school, after school, that's what I was watching. It was all animated in the '80s. Used to absolutely love it.
You're a good guy, so of course you had to be an Autobots guy, right? You weren't a Decepticons guy.
No, I prefer the Decepticons more than the Autobots.
Let's go. Decepticons where it's at, all right?
Always did. I did have a favourite Autobot, which was Sideswipe.
Okay. What was he? I'm trying to think of
He
what.
was the oh, red sports car. I can't remember which one it was.
Okay.
Corvette or Lamborghini. I can't remember.
Okay.
Lamborghini.
I I always thought the one that was like a ambulance was cool, but I don't remember what his name was. But he was like super wise. I remember
Ironhide.
him. Yeah, I remember him being like Optimus's like veteran guy that just knew what was going on. But I was always Decepticon, Soundwave, Starscream, like all those. Yeah, I was all about that, bro. That's where I
Yeah.
was. And then for Thundercats, like I remember watching it, but I don't remember. I know like Lion-O or whatever, and holding the sword up or whatever. But
Oh yeah, Thundercats was a big part of my life.
those-
It's like every Christmas, my mum would get me figures, buy me a school bag. It was a major part of my childhood. I absolutely loved it. The one thing that I didn't get, which I was gutted about, was the Thundercat layer. It was always too
oh,
expensive at the time. It
mm.
was the one toy I always wanted, but I could never get.
So, well, speaking about toys, that's something else that I've really learned about you having a passion of, and that's Lego. So that's something that is like synonymous with you, with our friends and stuff. They all know you're into Lego, all the sets. You know all this stuff. When did you start getting into that?
Lego was 2015. I was just at home with the kids half the time, and the kids would go to sleep early. And I needed something, I thought, for my mental health at the time to distract me from just sitting watching telly. So I got into building Lego again because I did it as a kid. And I thought, let's do it. And I used to just build Lego. I'd buy a set, build it, not display it, just sell it off, get another one. And that was
Hmm.
how I went. And it was something I enjoyed. And it seemed to like make me calm and happy, the build of Lego all the time. So that's how I got into it, and it's just built up from there.
So do you have any sets you would say like stood out to you? Like, are there ones you remember that you're like, man, like that was really enjoyable? Or
Yeah, the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars, I built that. I've had it twice. The first time I messed it up halfway through, and I was like, I'm not going to sit there and take it apart and rebuild it all again. So I just got rid of it. And then I bought it a second time and I managed to get it right. And the fulfillment of actually completing it, it was like, I'm happy now. So yeah, the Millennium Falcon and most Lego Star Wars sets for me, I absolutely adore.
so did you once you completed it, did you sell it off? Do you still have it? What did you?
I at the beginning, yes, I used to sell them off. Now, I have got some displayed, mostly Star Wars, and I have sets that I've not even opened. The last Lego set that I bought was Jaws because I'm a big fan of Jaws. So as
Okay.
soon as the set came out in August, I bought two of them, and it's basically one to keep in a box, and the other one I'm going to build. But that's going to be a build for after Christmas because I've got a small house, so it's quite a big set.
I was gonna say, how long does like a typical like a full set take to put together?
It can a few hours depending on the size. Some can take about an hour. Small
How
set
long was like the Millennium Falcon? Because I feel like that's a big thing.
that took me about a week, just over a week. But I was doing so many bags a day, like
Okay.
1 or 2 bags a day. If you tried to do it in one go, it'd probably take you about 8, 9 hours, depending on if you get the bits right and it doesn't mess up.
I see a lot of people now on TikTok and YouTube or whatever, they like flip them because you talked about you kept one in the box and then you build one. But I saw this one dude, he said he spends like a few $1,000s and buys ones that he thinks are going to be retired, like sets that are going to be retired. And then when they get retired, he flips them all like the next year or something.
Yeah, Lego sets have like a release life, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe less, depending. Then they go retired. Uh, Basically, some Lego is more they say more valuable than gold. If you've got it complete, wrapped up, the box in great condition, some can set you back thousands and thousands of pounds. I have retired sets that I haven't opened, but they've only been retired a year or so. So, but I do have sets that I have not opened. I just bought and they're still sealed and everything like that.
It's like investment banking. It's just
Yeah,
investing in
invest
Lego. Okay.
investment Lego basically. Yeah, you
Okay.
look at them because I watch on TikTok. They tell you what sets are retiring. You can look online for that year. Uh, you think, is it worth it? Shall I buy it and see how it goes? And do I buy two of them? One I want to buy, one you want to keep. That's just the way I do it. For me, it
No, that's
is a
cool.
sort of investment into the future that it could be worth something to me later on.
So when let's jump out of Lego, but back into something you were talking about here, because it seems like you had a lot of Star Wars sets you kept mentioning. So is Star Wars, are you a huge fan of Star Wars? Is that like a big thing for you, or do you just like the Lego aspect of it?
I like Star Wars. I'm not like a super. I wasn't like a super fan and know everything there is to know about Star Wars. I loved the films when I was younger, but the Lego sets come out and I absolutely adored them. It was like the toys in the 80s. I used to love the figures and I used to collect the figures. So having the Lego, something I build, and Star Wars at the same time is absolutely fantastic for me. I'm always on the lookout to see what new sets are out and what old sets I can get hold of. It's yeah. I like Star Wars.
Well, I'm just curious because I'm trying to get into like what else makes up Nigel. So you said you really love Jaws, okay? What other big movies were you into? Like what else were you like if you had to give me like a top 3 of like your favorite movies, what would you say?
My favourite three movies, they would be Jaws at number one, Face Off number two. This is
Travolta and Nicolas
John
Cage?
Travolta, Nicolas Cage. A bit of a random one. Not many people
It's a
talk
good
about
movie.
it,
It's a good
but
movie.
I absolutely love that film.
Side note, for my entire life, I have done the hand thing on the face, and it is from that movie. And I don't know how many people know that, but I do the hand. Like, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. So I know Nigel knows what I'm talking about, but yeah.
See, I always said if I ever had a boy, I was going to call it Castor,
Mm,
but
yeah.
luckily for him, it didn't happen. So,
Okay, so we got Jaws, we got Face Off. What else we got?
and the original Stephen King's It from the
Oh,
90s.
okay. What's his name? That's the dude who played Dr. Frankenfurter, Tim Curry,
Yeah,
right?
Tim Curry.
Are
Yes.
you a Tim Curry guy, or do you just like it?
No, this was one of the horror films. It was a TV sort of film to start with. It was shown over parts so probably the same in the UK.
Yeah,
And I watched it and absolutely loved it. When the DVD was released, I sort of like, fantastic, bought it straight away. One of my nostalgic DVDs that I will never ever get rid of. And
love
I
it.
absolutely love the film and the way it's done, and looking back into their childhood and how the clown still affects them now. It's for me amazing film. I absolutely love it. It's the one horror film I could keep watching again and again and again.
Did you get into the new one when it came out? Like, is that something where you?
I was skeptical. I was like, you see, it's like Jaws in a way. I'd never want them to remake Jaws. So when they said they were remaking it, I was like, I'm not going to like this. But I gave it a chance and I watched the remake and I did like the way they did the remake. I'm not angry about what they did with the two parts and how they done it. So yeah, I do like the new remakes. I think they're good. They offer a different perspective from the 90s one. So yeah, it's not a bad thing, but yeah, I do like that version.
So, okay. Is there, and I specifically made you episode 7. So if anybody knows this, 007, because I just went with some. I was like, oh, that's British. We'll go with that. Were you a James Bond guy? Were you ever into the
I
Bond
have
films?
watched. I've watched most of the James Bonds. Um, the newer ones I used to go cinema to watch. Yes, I love the James Bond films. Uh, my favourite James Bond is not everyone when they say James Bond, they always associate Sean Connery as the best 007. But for me, no, I prefer
You,
Roger Moore.
I was gonna say, are you a George Lazenby guy? Is that what we're?
No, no,
Okay.
no, no.
Pierce
I
Brosnan
liked
was
Roger.
good.
Who?
Pierce Brosnan was good.
Uh, I didn't really like his films. Controversial take. I didn't
No,
think he was a great Bond. I thought Timothy Dalton was an underrated Bond. He didn't do enough, but the Bond franchise at that time was having problems. I think Timothy Dalton was a very good Bond and could have done a lot more.
I for sure am a Sean Connery guy, but Pierce Brosnan I thought was pretty good. His felt just like regular action movies though. And then Daniel Craig, I think I really like Daniel Craig. I'm a fan.
Yeah, yeah. The only one I didn't like of Daniel Craig's was Skyfall. I couldn't
Hmm.
get into Skyfall.
Good soundtrack though. Bond films notoriously have a pretty decent soundtrack. I like the
If you like
Skyfall.
Adele.
Oh, I do like Adele. I love Adele, by the way. I
Yeah, no,
won't
I'm
openly sing Adele on here, but I do love
not a fan.
Adele. Okay, so when I think, classic British franchises, I think, James Bond, but I also think Doctor Who. Were you a Whovian?
No.
Did you ever get into Doctor Who? No.
Doctor Who, I tried to get into, but I couldn't. I've seen some. It was like last year when David Tennant returned for the Christmas one. I sort of watched a
Mhm.
couple of them, but I've never really been a Doctor Who fan, to be fair.
I went and saw the 50th in the theater. I did go and like did the whole theater thing for it. So I'm huge into that. I had posters, I have sonic screwdrivers, I'm all about it. So what would you say, like, if you were to give me a handful of shows that you were into that would represent, British television, what would you recommend if somebody wanted to get into British television?
British comedy. See, a lot of people don't get British humor, but for me, a British
Can I
comedy.
can
Yeah,
I name some and get your opinion on them?
yeah,
Okay, I'm a big fan of the Peep Show.
no,
No, what? Come
no.
on now. Okay,
I watched it. I didn't even find that funny. It may be controversial, but I was like, no.
okay. What about the IT crowd?
Yes, I don't mind the
Yes.
IT crowd. The IT crowd is a good British comedy.
Okay. What about the In-Betweeners?
No,
No, not a
no.
fan.
See, that's another one. Very popular in Britain, but for me, it's sort of no.
Here's one that I really liked. I feel like it's an older school take, but spaced.
Oh, Nazi! Now you're talking British comedy. Spaced is absolutely amazing. Introduced me to Simon Pegg.
Love Simon
Love
Pegg.
that.
If you've seen Shaun of the Dead, it's a lot of the same cast. So like I
Yes.
know it's like there's many similar people. So UK Office, I'm assuming the OG Office. Were you a fan?
I wasn't really a big fan, but I've seen some of the American and some of the UK. And as I think I've said to you before, I prefer the UK version to the American version. I know a lot of people like the American version better.
I respect the fact that the UK one did what it did very well, and it's a different style. If you watch the
Mm.
first season of the American one, they try to be the British one and they can't do it. But they change and like kind of change the formula. But Ricky Gervais, he's phenomenal.
Oh,
You can't
yeah.
touch him. Like he's amazing.
No, 100%.
So I have a couple more because I am, if you couldn't tell, a fan of British comedy. How about Red Dwarf?
Oh, see, now you're talking. Red Dwarf, 1 to 8. I absolutely love it. Craig Charles, amazing actor. See, that for me as a 13, 14-year old watching that, loved it. And then when it released on DVD, of course, I had to go and buy them all. Yes, Red Dwarf for me, absolutely amazing. Top tier
Love
in British programming.
I'm curious if you've even seen this show. I love this show, and I love the actors. They do a lot of live shows and stuff. But The Mighty Boosh. Have you ever seen that show?
One, not for me. It wasn't something that I was really interested in.
Okay.
Um, yeah, not the sort of British comedy I like, The Mighty Boosh.
I was gonna say it's more like alternative. That's not like
Yeah,
mainstream, you know. So
it's
that's why
yeah,
I was curious.
it's an alternative comedy. See, I'm more into shows like Phoenix Nights. It's about
Okay,
a social
that I've never
club
seen.
in yeah, it's about a social club in the UK. It stars a big comedian over here called Peter Kay.
I
I
know
don't
the
know.
name and I can't envision. I'll have to Google him. I know I've
Yeah.
heard the name. Like I know, well, because that's another thing I was going to get into. I like a lot of the game shows. Like what is it? Don't mind the Buzzcocks or something. And
Yes. Eight
there's
out of
another one.
ten cats.
There's another one too. They tell a bunch of lies.
Uh, yeah.
Is it Lie to Me or something?
Lie to
Or
me. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Lie
yeah.
to me.
Do you watch any of that stuff? Are you into
I
like
do. I never seen them when they first come out, but they repeat them a lot on British television and sort of watch it now. Yeah, 8 out of 10 cats and their version 8 out of 10 cats does Countdown. Great shows. I enjoy watching them.
Countdown, another one that I've seen. Well, I learned about Countdown from watching other British sitcoms that referenced Countdown. So who are like what are when you say 8 out of 10 cats? I am not familiar with that. What is that about?
It's a quiz show. It's basically about finding what's what was relevant at this time in the UK and stuff like that, and guessing things like that. It was like a panel show with they got British people and it was two teams against each other, but it was more the comedy aspect and the jokes
Okay,
they told than the actual game show itself. So yeah, that was always so funny to watch.
okay. Um, Now we're talking teams facing each other, and we're going to jump into what I was talking about very early on, which is the teams you're repping right there. It seems like you definitely appreciate American sports. So what
Yes,
do
I
you
sort of
watch? What do you watch? What are you
uh,
into? Or you just like the
American.
branding?
I like the shirts basically.
Well, so I was going to
NFL,
say, are you in
yeah,
it for the gear or are you in it for the love of
the
the
gear,
game?
basically retro gear. I like the old style American football shirts, so I
Okay.
have a few of them. Team wise in NFL, I'm a Commanders fan. I have
Okay.
been since I was younger, but yeah, American football. It's like the retro gear. I've got a few of them. I like finding them,
What
buying
made
them.
you pick the Commanders though as a team to follow?
I think it was I was round my brother's house and he was watching it at the time, and the Commanders were on, and it just sort of clicked with me at a young age. And then after watching that, the Commanders were the team I always followed in an NFL at that point. Not that they've been very good because they seem to get destroyed every year, bar this year. But yeah, I've just followed them from then on. It's always been the Commanders from then, or the
Eh,
Redskins as they were called then.
Well, I was gonna say because I was, and then weren't they like the Washington football team for like a while or something like
Yeah,
that?
they were the Washington Redskins. The name was classed as not politically correct.
Offensive, yeah,
Yeah,
offensive.
so they became the Washington football team, and then I think last year or the year before they became the Washington Commanders.
What is the hat?
It's just an all-star hat. I love hats. I wear them all the time. A man
Okay.
who lost his hair at a young age, sort of at the beginning, it was like I'm not going out with losing hair and people, but so I used to go out wear hat all the time. Now
Okay.
for me, it's just a staple part of who I am.
So I would assume, other than American football, being a Brit, my if I just had to guess, you probably have a sports club that you rep for soccer or actual football.
I have a football team. Yes,
Yeah.
I support Everton.
Okay. So, as someone who's uninitiated to British soccer, football, whatever, how would you like? What are some of the main players of Everton? What drew you to Everton? What is the
When I was younger, I used to watch football a lot with my dad. My dad was a big Liverpool fan. And I think at the time when I was watching football when I was younger, it was an Everton Liverpool game, and it was because Everton are Liverpool's main rivals in the same city.
okay?
So I decided to go against my dad at that point and support Everton, and it kind of stuck from then on. And I built into watching them constantly every weekend when I can watch them. Some of their main players at the moment, they're not very good. They really aren't very good this year. Um, but they've got a striker called Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's their main striker. Is one of the better players in Everton, and Dia, a new I can't pronounce his name because I apologise if I've murdered it.
Yeah, you're
Um,
fine. Yeah.
he's a French player that we've signed this year, but he's really, really good. But yeah, Everton. I have a love for Everton, unfortunately, for my sins.
So, is that like your primary sport? Then, if you were to watch anything, you'd probably
Yes,
watch.
football is my primary and always has been my primary sport. I've played it, um, watched it, lived it for years, and it's just stuck with me.
Did you play it in school, or did you just play it like with
I
friends, or
I played it in school. I played for my school team in both junior and high school, as you call it, and I did play after I left school for about a year. But then I sort of found alcohol and sports took a back seat.
okay? Fair enough. Hey, some people do both. At least you committed to one. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying. Okay.
it
Okay.
was.
I want to go ahead, change up gears just because we're getting towards that part. So typically, I used to have what I call the lightning round. Now we have just some questions that I ask because I feel like asking them. So we're gonna kind of change it up here a little bit. So I try to have some of these are a little more serious, but some of them are just kind of deep dives of things we've talked about that you're into. Okay. So one that I think would be interesting is if you, Nigel, could make any Lego set that encompassed you. So it's like your Lego set, you're in it. What is the set? What are you building out? What type of Lego set is it?
See, for this, the question would have been straight away, put me in a jaw set. But
Okay.
it's done. So my dream of having a jaw set is complete. Having my minifigure in
So
a jaw
just
set,
throw you in that?
just throw me in there. See,
Okay.
that was my live stream at the beginning to get a jaw set. And when it was released, there is
Was
nothing.
this We'll just throw you in like a little dinghy boat, like a little small boat in
Put
the
me in a dinghy
background.
by
Just
the
be
side near the shark. Yeah,
tally ho.
I would be very happy with that.
Okay, cool. Okay. If you could be a museum curator, so you have your own museum, again, Nigel's Museum, what would it be about and what would you have in it?
Oh Jesus! I would have a museum of retro toys and games from the 80s, 70s. Um, that would be my thing because I think that was where I'd thrive and be interested the most, showing how kids what they used to play with in the 80s, 70s, uh, retro sets. That would be me. I would be happy getting sets and showing people around and discussing everything about them with them.
I dig that. I think those are really, I feel like that would be a very popular museum.
Yeah,
I feel like that would be huge. Okay, a lot of these now, like over the episodes, these have kind of merged, but a lot of them are like, if you were this, what would you do? But I have another one. You're the first person I'm going to ask this. But if you were a professor, what class would you teach, and what would be the biggest lesson you would teach your students?
if I was it would have to be sport,
Okay.
um, because I would teach my students the value of teamwork. You
Hmm.
see, I think working together with people is one of the most important things you can do. Um, so for me, yeah, it has to be sport and working together and helping each other and pushing each other to build yourselves. For me, yes, 100%. That would be, if I was a professor, the only thing I would be good at.
Okay. I did. I mean, that's a really great answer, to be honest. For being the first person to answer that, that's the best answer that I feel like you could have given me. Okay. So we didn't really get into wrestling very much. I was going to ask, what is your earliest memory of wrestling? But we'll change it up. What is your earliest memory of film, like cinema, like going to the movies?
It has to be Ghostbusters.
Okay.
1984, I was like 6, and it was the first real time I got into watching movies. Um, it was the first time I went to the cinema as well,
Okay.
to watch Ghostbusters, and from then on, that's the earliest memory and how I got my love for movies and films at that point. It was like you sit there as a 6-year-old kid in awe of the way the ghosts are on the screen. I'm sitting there going, wow. To me, that was one of the best feelings in the world and the earliest memory of cinema.
I was gonna say, got Bill Murray in there. Shout out, very Chicago coded movie in general. So you couldn't have picked a better one. Just saying. So we did talk Simon Pegg, okay,
Yes.
and I am a huge fan, especially Shaun of the Dead. Have you seen Shaun of the Dead?
The Cornetto trilogies are one of the
Yeah,
best trilogies out there
love
for
it,
me.
love it. Also, Nick Frost.
Perfect.
Shout out Nick Frost.
Yes.
Big fan of Nick Frost.
But out of the three, my favourite one is Hot Fuzz.
I have the original movie trailer for it on film. I had the poster. I used to work at a movie theater as a manager at a movie theater. So, but I love Hot Fuzz. But here's my question: what would your weapon of choice be in a zombie apocalypse?
Chainsaw.
Chainsaw?
Chainsaw.
You're gonna run out of gas eventually. You think you just got endless gas?
If you got a gun, you're going to run out of bullets.
That's
If you got a
true.
baseball bat, it could break.
Yeah,
For me, yes, but it would be my weapon of choice in the beginning.
for sure. Well, and once it runs out of gas, you can still bluntly just beat people. just,
The head with it,
just
it's
bash
still a
people with
lethal
it.
weapon.
Still works. Um, okay, so I have two questions that are pretty deep. Okay, one
Okay.
would be, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think it was when my dad said to me that I tried to get into all these sports clubs when I was younger, and he always used to say to me, just be you. It doesn't matter what happens, whether you get rejected, be you, be who you are, and things will happen. I think that was the best advice because my dad was never really like talkative person who give advice,
Advice
but
giver.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, advice giver. But for me, he was just like, keep going, be you, and things will come. And that always stuck with me. And it was what I was with. If I do anything, it's like, just be you, just be who you are, because you can't be anything else.
it's a Dr. Seuss quote. It's like nobody is more youer than you. That is
Yeah.
truer than true. You know, Dr. Seuss quote. Okay, and this may be the same answer, but I'm just curious because you and I interviewed our friend Chris just a little while ago. You're a father. Obviously, it's a big part of your life and your personality. And as soon as I think about you, you're such a caring, loving dad. You talk about your kids a lot. So, what would you say is the best advice you've given as a father? Do you think it's the same thing your father gave you, or do you think there's a piece of advice, a nugget of advice you've given of fatherly advice?
I'd say it's the same thing. I want my kids to grow up to be themselves and achieve what they want to achieve. As a dad, I've never pushed them to be better than they are. I know there are some parents that want their kids to reach heights, but I've always been in it that I want my kids to achieve what they think they can achieve. And I will always support them in any of their endeavors, what they want to do, when they want to do it. They will have my back in 100%. So it's the same sort of thing for me. It's like I just want them to be them and who they want to be and what they want to achieve.
I love that. I mean, I know a lot of people listening probably wish that their parents said the same type of thing to them because I know a lot of people, I didn't necessarily have this. I know a lot of my friends did though, where your parents tend to put a expectation on you, that may be beyond your means or beyond your, desire. And then if you don't fulfill that, you're not
Yeah,
meeting, the
that's what I mean. It's
expectation.
like looking at, because I've been a single dad for nearly 10 years now. I've never put pressure on them. I've always wanted them to be what they want to be. And that's what I hope. As long as they are happy and enjoy what they do, they've always got my support 100% in whatever they want to achieve in their life. For me, there is no expectation of what I want them to do or what I want them to achieve. As long as they do their best at what they do and they're happy, then I'm happy with that.
I love that. Brother Nigel, I appreciate you being on, man. You're a great friend. You're a great father. I know that your kids are so lucky to have you in their lives. I'm very lucky to have you in mine as one of my closest friends. So, the last question I'm going to leave you with is we've had a great conversation here. Okay. I'm looking to have more great conversations. I'm looking to get to know people that maybe I don't know as well as I know you coming into this. So, my question to you is can you recommend to me someone to interview that you think would be interested and interesting that I could bring on G2 Kappa?
Either Lee,
Well, oh, yeah. Okay.
yes,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
or Smoke.
Oh, get Richie over here. Okay.
Yeah, Richie,
I would
Richie
love
or
that.
Lee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
See, either one of them for me, well, I think would be a great show. Because
For
for
sure.
me, me and Lee have been close for years. So I think that would also be a great interview for you to speak to Lee.
Yeah. One, both of them, I know to a certain
Yeah,
extent, but I've never had like deep dive. Me and Richie have had really deep conversations, but no, both of those would be really interesting. Actually, I'm going to throw both of them on my list, so I appreciate that.
no problem.
Um, I think it's really good. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up here?
No, I think we've covered most of the things for now.
Okay, we are going to come back with the Christmas episode.
Oh yeah,
We
100%,
because I got
definitely.
a deep dive on Christmas.
See my
Um,
passion for that.
but I do appreciate you coming on. It's always my pleasure to have these conversations with you, brother. I love you so much. Thank you for doing this. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll have you back.
Oh, absolutely loved it. Thank you for having me.
Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Let us know what you thought in the comments down below. Hit me with more questions for Nigel for next time, or other people you want to see on the show, or just random. Throw me some of the random questions that I ask here, because hopefully you guys enjoy those too. Um, yeah, this is a great episode, and hopefully you tune in to the next one. We'll see you guys.
See you soon.